The closet was dark, barely enough space to breathe, but I didn't dare move. My heartbeat hammered in my ears as I clutched my phone, camera rolling. Right there, just a few feet away on our damn bed, Emily moaned his name. Not mine. His. Jason, the same bastard she swore was just a gym friend, had his hands all over my wife. Her wedding ring was still on, mocking me, glinting under the dim bedroom light as she pulled him closer. "You're so much better than my husband," she panted. I felt my stomach turn, rage boiling in my veins. 8 years of marriage reduced to this. Lies. Deception. A stranger in my own home. I could have burst out, could have torn that scumbag apart right then. But no. Not yet. I had a better plan. I tightened my grip on my phone. Every second of this was getting recorded. I stayed in that closet long after they were done. Long after Jason pulled on his jeans, kissed my wife on the forehead, and strutted out of my house like he owned it. Emily lay there, sprawled across the sheets we had picked out together, scrolling through her phone like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just shattered our marriage. I should have walked out right then. Thrown my wedding ring at her. Told her exactly what I saw. But something held me back. No, this wasn't the time. She needed to think she got away with it. I needed her to feel safe. So I waited. I stayed in that closet until I heard the shower running. Then I slipped out, grabbed my keys, and walked out the front door. I drove aimlessly for a while, hands clenched on the steering wheel. My mind raced with 1,000 different ways I could ruin her, make her pay. But I knew one thing, this wasn't going to be some messy, emotional fight. No. I wanted something better. I pulled into a parking lot, my pulse still hammering in my ears. I opened my phone and played back the video. Crystal clear. Her voice. His name. Every betrayal laid out in perfect detail. She had no idea she had just handed me the ammunition to destroy her. But I needed a plan. First things first, I wasn't going to let her play the victim. No way was I walking into some courtroom getting screwed over in a divorce while she cried about irreconcilable differences. I needed to move carefully. So I called my lawyer. "Logan, it's bad," I said as soon as he picked up. "How bad?" I hesitated for half a second, then sent him the video. There was a long silence on the other end. "Jesus Christ," he finally muttered. Okay. This changes everything." "Yeah. So tell me what I need to do next." By the time I got home, it was like nothing had happened. Emily was sitting on the couch in her pajamas, sipping a glass of wine, scrolling through Instagram. She looked up and smiled. "Hey, babe. Where'd you go?" I almost laughed. The sheer audacity. "Just went for a drive," I said, forcing my voice to sound normal. "Cleared my head." She stretched, her shirt sliding up just enough to show a little skin. The same tricks she had used on me for years. The same moves she had probably used on Jason hours ago. I felt sick. "Come sit with me," she purred. "I missed you today." "Missed me?" I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. I sat beside her, forcing myself to act natural. If she even suspected I knew, she'd start spinning her lies. Start making excuses. And I wasn't ready for that yet. No, I wanted to see how deep this rabbit hole went. So I played along. I kissed her on the forehead. Let her lean against me. And when she finally fell asleep, I unlocked her phone. I had all the proof I needed. But what I found next, that changed everything. Emily's phone was warm in my hand, the glow of the screen casting soft shadows over her sleeping face. She breathed evenly, curled up against me like she was still the loving wife I had married. But I knew better. I had seen the truth with my own eyes. Heard it with my own ears. And now I was about to dig even deeper into the life she thought she had kept hidden from me. I swiped through her messages first, scrolling past the usual group chats and work emails. Then I found it, her conversation with Jason. "Emily, when can I see you again?" "I can't wait," that long face-blowing kiss. "Jason, relax, babe. Your husband isn't suspicious, right?" "Emily, pfft. He's clueless. Just eats up everything I say. If only he knew." Face with ears of joy. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles turning white. Clueless? That's what she thought? I scrolled further up. Messages going back months. This wasn't a one-time thing. This wasn't some drunken mistake. This was a full-blown, calculated betrayal. And Jason wasn't the only one. I nearly dropped the phone when I saw another chat labeled Tyler Rehart. My blood turned to ice. Tyler? Who the hell was Tyler? I tapped the conversation, my stomach twisting with every word. "Emily, last night was amazing. Wish I could have stayed longer." Tyler, "Damn, babe, your husband really doesn't notice?" "Emily, told you he's an idiot. He barely looks at me anymore. Even when I'm lying right to his face." "Idiot? Idiot?" I clenched my jaw so hard I thought my teeth might crack. It wasn't just Jason. She was screwing at least 2 other guys behind my back. The woman I had spent 8 years building a life with, the woman I had loved, defended, and trusted, she had turned me into some punchline in her sick little game. I had never felt rage like this before. I wanted revenge. And now I had the perfect way to get it. I locked her phone and set it back on the nightstand, taking a deep breath. She couldn't know I had seen anything. Not yet. Emily stirred beside me, letting out a soft sigh. You okay? I forced a small chuckle. Yeah. Just thinking. She smiled sleepily, rolling over to drape her arm across my chest. The same arms that had probably held Jason. And Tyler. I wanted to shove her off me. Instead, I played along. I kissed her forehead, just like always. Get some sleep, I murmured. Big day tomorrow. She hummed happily, completely unaware that tomorrow her whole world was about to start crashing down. The next morning, I got up earlier than usual, kissed Emily goodbye like I always did, and headed to work. Except I didn't go to work. I went straight to Logan's office. My lawyer leaned back in his chair, tapping a pen against the desk as he watched the video I had sent him the night before. His face was unreadable, but when it ended, he let out a slow breath. Well, he said, that's about as open and shut as it gets. I nodded. And there's more. I pulled out my phone, opened Emily's texts, and slid it across the desk. Logan skimmed through them, shaking his head. Jesus. How long has this been going on? At least 6 months. Maybe longer. He whistled low. All right. You've got her dead to rights. But what do you want to do? Divorce? Full custody? Bleed her dry? I exhaled slowly. Not yet. I want to make her feel this first. Logan raised an eyebrow. What do you have in mind? I grinned. I want to set a trap. And I want her to walk right into it. I walked out of Logan's office, my mind set on one thing: revenge. Not just exposing her, not just divorcing her. I wanted Emily to feel the same humiliation, the same gut-wrenching pain she had put me through. The first step was setting the stage. I needed her distracted, off balance, and completely unaware of what was coming. I sent her a text, keeping my tone warm, affectionate. I told her I had planned a special dinner, that I wanted to spoil my beautiful wife. She responded instantly, excited, completely oblivious. She had no idea this would be the last time she ever felt in control. While she was still in the shower, I grabbed her phone and sent a message to Tyler, pretending to be her. I told him to meet at the same hotel as last time, room 214, at 8 p.m. He replied within seconds, eager, playing right into my hands. There was no room 214. I had already called the hotel to confirm. He would show up confused, bombarding her phone with calls and messages while she sat across from me at dinner. I wanted to watch the panic spread across her face in real time. I also made sure Jason was busy. A quick call to his gym, booking him for a fake personal training session, locked him into place. He wouldn't be answering her texts or saving her from whatever mess she was about to find herself in. At 7:30, I picked her up. She stepped out of the house in a tight red dress, hair curled perfectly, makeup flawless. If I hadn't known any better, I might have thought she was just an excited wife trying to impress her husband. Instead, I saw her for what she really was: a liar, a cheater, a woman who had been playing me for a fool. You look incredible, I said smoothly, watching as her lips curled into a satisfied smile. She thought she still had me fooled. The restaurant was upscale, intimate. Dim lighting, expensive wine lists, the perfect setting for a romantic evening, or in this case, the beginning of her downfall. I had reserved a private booth, ensuring that no matter what happened, we wouldn't be interrupted. She was radiant, laughing, reaching across the table to touch my hand, acting as if nothing was wrong. I played along, letting her believe this was just another ordinary night. Then, right on schedule, her phone began to vibrate. She glanced down, a flicker of confusion crossing her face as she read the name on the screen. Tyler. She hesitated for a moment before flipping her phone over, trying to ignore it. I took a slow sip of my drink, watching her carefully. Everything okay? She forced a smile. Yeah, just spam calls. Liar. A second later, another buzz. Then another. Her fingers curled around the edges of her phone, tension creeping into her posture. She reached for her purse, slipping the phone inside as if that would make it go away. Her expression remained neutral, but I saw the cracks forming. Excuse me, she said suddenly, grabbing her purse. I just need to use the restroom. She was out of her seat before I could respond, practically rushing toward the hallway. I let her go, waiting exactly 2 minutes before following. The corridor leading to the restrooms was dimly lit and quiet except for the hushed sound of her voice. Tyler, what the hell are you talking about? What do you mean there's no room 214? Silence. No, I didn't send that. I don't know what's going on. Just go home, okay? She sounded panicked now, her voice sharp, frantic. I stepped closer, watching as she gripped her phone, knuckles white. She was so consumed by the mess unraveling around her that she didn't hear me approach. Who are you talking to? She jumped, nearly dropping her phone. Oh. No one. Just a work thing. A work thing? At a hotel. Her face drained of color. And no, I didn't say hotel, I said it. You did, I cut her off, my voice calm, controlled. You absolutely did. She stammered, looking for an escape, but there wasn't one. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched her phone to her chest. I pulled my own phone from my pocket and, without another word, hit play. Her voice filled the hallway, crystal clear. God, you're so much better than my husband. She went still. I let it play. The moans, the giggles, Jason's voice, Tyler's texts, all of it. Every disgusting, degrading piece of evidence. Emily's lips parted, but no sound came out. Wait, I can explain. You don't have to, I said coldly. I already know everything. Her mouth opened and closed, desperate, searching for a way out. Sit back down, I told her, my voice like ice. We're not done yet. Emily didn't move at first. She just stood there, eyes darting from my face to my phone like a cornered animal calculating the best way to escape. I didn't blink. I didn't give her an inch. Sit, I repeated, voice low, steady, controlled. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. She tried to mask the panic in her eyes, tried to summon the usual manipulative charm that had worked on me before. But this time she felt that something was different. Finally, she took a slow step back toward the table, lowering herself into her seat like a woman walking into her own execution. I followed, sliding into my chair with deliberate calmness. The restaurant buzzed around us, couples laughing, glasses clinking, waiters moving between tables. But at our table, there was only silence. Thick, suffocating, electric. Emily wet her lips, forcing a tight smile. Okay, she breathed out, feigning composure. Let's talk. I leaned back, studying her. Talk? Now you want to talk. She forced a laugh, too high-pitched. Look, I don't know what this is, but you're clearly upset and You think this is me upset? I interrupted, tilting my head. Oh, Emily. We haven't even started yet. I slid my phone across the table, screen still open to the audio file. Press play. She flinched. What? You heard me. I gestured at the phone. Press play. She shook her head, reaching for her wine glass instead. Her fingers trembled slightly as she took a sip. I don't need to do that, she said, voice shaking. I don't even know what you think you have, but... Then prove me wrong, I cut in smoothly. If you've got nothing to hide, play it. Right here. Out loud. Her face paled. Her lips parted slightly like she wanted to argue, to scream, to fight, but she couldn't. Because we both knew the truth? Slowly, I picked up my phone and hit play myself. God, you're so much better than my husband. Emily gasped like she had been struck. Turn it off, she whispered, voice barely audible. I didn't. I let it play. The moans, the breathless whispers, the wet sounds of betrayal that had been hidden from me for months. She lurched forward, grabbing for the phone, but I was faster. I yanked it back, pocketing it with a smirk. Jason? I said, tilting my head. Or was that Tyler? Her whole body went rigid. You know, I continued, swirling my wine glass lazily, I had a hard time figuring out which one you loved more. But after hearing the way you talk about me to both of them, I think I get it now. She was shaking. Her breath hitched as she opened her mouth to argue, but I held up a finger. Careful, I warned. Lie to me again, and I'll make sure that audio gets sent to your entire family, your work, and I paused for effect, watching the horror in her eyes grow, your mother. Her entire face collapsed. I let the weight of it sink in, watching as realization crashed over her like a tidal wave. The Emily who had been so smug, so confident, so in control, she was gone. In her place sat a woman stripped bare, exposed, completely at my mercy. And I wasn't done. I took my time, taking a sip of my drink before continuing. So tell me, Emily, I'm mused. How long has it been? Her hands were clasped together so tightly her knuckles had turned white. How? Long? Her jaw clenched. She exhaled shakily. It wasn't serious. I laughed. Loudly. A sharp, cold sound. Not serious? I leaned in, lowering my voice. You let them ruin our bed, Emily. Was that not serious? She flinched. Was it not serious when you begged Jason to make you forget you were married? I continued, eyes darkening. Was it not serious when you told Tyler I was boring and that you didn't even feel guilty? She squeezed her eyes shut, shaking her head. I didn't mean those things. I scoffed. Oh, so it was just pillow talk then? Just meaningless, filthy little lies you whisper to your other men to make them feel special. She looked away, biting her lip, shoulders trembling. Save it. I cut her off, pushing my chair back. I've heard enough. She snapped her head up, panic flashing in her eyes. Wait. What are you doing? I tossed my napkin onto the table, standing up. What does it look like? Her face contorted with desperation. Please, we can talk about this. I laughed again, shaking my head. Talk? Now you want to talk? I leaned in, dropping my voice so only she could hear. Emily, you had plenty of time to talk. Every night you came home, smiling in my face. Every time I asked if something was wrong. Every lie you told me. Her lips quivered. I was stupid. I made a mistake. A mistake. I sneered. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is saying something in anger. What you did? I took a step closer, lowering my voice into something cold, final. You made a choice. Over and over again. Tears welled in her eyes. Please, she choked out. Just tell me what you're going to do. I stared at her for a long moment. Then, very slowly, I reached into my pocket, pulled out an envelope, and tossed it onto the table. Emily looked at it like it was a ticking bomb. What is this? She whispered. I gave her a cold, empty smile. Open it and find out. Her hands trembled as she reached forward, peeling the envelope open. She pulled out the neatly folded papers inside, her eyes scanning over them, widening with every word. Then she froze. A strangled noise escaped her lips as she looked up at me, pure horror in her gaze. Divorce papers, I said simply, shoving my hands into my pockets. Filed, finalized, and completely ironclad. She gasped. Why you? Oh, and don't worry, I added, cutting her off. I made sure you walk away with exactly what you deserve. Her breath hitched. What do you mean? I leaned down, just close enough for her to see the victory in my eyes. I took everything. And with that, I turned and walked away, leaving her destroyed. I stepped out into the cold night air, the wind biting at my skin as I walked away from Emily, leaving her in the restaurant. The night felt heavier now, weighted down by the decisions I just made. The finality of it all was suffocating. Divorce papers signed. Her life shattered. And it was exactly what she deserved. But as I drove home, the rush of victory started to fade, replaced by something I hadn't expected: doubt. I couldn't put my finger on it at first. Maybe it was the emptiness of it all. The knowledge that there was no turning back now. Emily was gone. Not just physically, but in every way that mattered. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I'd spent 8 years of my life with, was a stranger. The betrayal ran deeper than I'd ever imagined, and somehow, despite every piece of evidence, I still couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. As I pulled into the driveway, I caught a glimpse of our old house in the dim glow of the streetlight. The home where we had planned our future, where we'd laughed and argued and loved. I had thought it was our sanctuary. But now it felt like a tomb. I entered the house, the silence of it striking me immediately. The smell of her perfume still lingered in the air, a reminder of what had once been. I couldn't help but wonder, had she ever really loved me? Or had I just been a fool, playing my part in her perfect little lie? My phone buzzed, dragging me out of my thoughts. It was Logan, my lawyer. I hesitated before answering, the weight of the past few hours bearing down on me. Logan. Hey, I just wanted to check in. Logan's voice was casual, but I could tell he was trying to gauge my mood. How's it going? I leaned against the kitchen counter, staring at the empty space around me. It's done, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She knows everything. Good, Logan said. You did the right thing. You'll be better off, trust me. I don't know, I muttered, more to myself than to him. I'm not sure anymore. It feels like it should have been enough, but I don't feel as relieved as I thought I would. It's like, now that it's all over, I don't know what to do with myself. Logan paused for a moment. Look, man, you're going through a lot right now. That's understandable. But you need to stay focused. This is the beginning of a new chapter for you, one where you take control. Don't let her guilt trip you. She's already made her choices. Yeah, I said, forcing the words out. I know. But it's like, a part of me still wants to believe that there's something left. Some kind of explanation. Stop right there, Logan interrupted. Don't let her manipulate you again. You've got the upper hand now. Don't waste it by letting her play on your emotions. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. You're right. Thanks, Logan. I just need to get some sleep. Take care of yourself, man. We'll talk soon. I hung up the phone and sat down on the couch, my mind racing. Logan was right. I had all the control now. Emily had lost the game, and I was the one who held all the cards. But deep down, there was a part of me that still wanted answers. Still wanted to know how it all happened. How the woman I loved had ended up betraying me in the worst way possible. I thought about the conversation we had in the restaurant, the fear in her eyes as the truth came crashing down on her. The way she tried to backpedal, tried to explain it away. It wasn't serious, she'd said. But I had heard it all, the moans, the words, the lies. There was no denying it. Emily had made her choices and now she had to live with the consequences. But as much as I told myself that, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that I needed to know more. I needed to understand why. And maybe, just maybe, there was still a part of me that wanted closure. The next day, I found myself staring at my phone, contemplating what to do next. Should I move on? Should I keep pressing forward, taking advantage of the fact that Emily was completely unprepared for what I was about to do? Or should I reach out to her? Should I let her explain herself even if I didn't want to hear it? A text notification popped up, Emily. My heart skipped a beat, but I didn't open it right away. I knew it was probably just her trying to salvage something, anything. But I couldn't help the curiosity. I opened the message. We need to talk. Please, just give me one more chance. I stared at the screen for a long time, my finger hovering over the reply button. What did I even say to her? How could I explain that everything had changed? That the woman she had been no longer existed in my mind? Instead of responding, I locked my phone and tossed it aside. I didn't need to hear her voice anymore. I didn't need her to tell me that things would be different. I had already made my decision. But as the day wore on, I couldn't escape the feeling that something was about to change again. A new chapter was about to begin, but I didn't know what that would look like. I had already taken control of the situation, but the truth was, now that Emily was out of the picture, I didn't know where I was headed. Maybe that was the hardest part of all, knowing that the road ahead was unknown. And in a way, that was even scarier than the betrayal itself. Because while I had been living in the shadow of Emily's lies, now I had to face my own truth. What was I really capable of? What kind of man had I become in the aftermath of all of this? I grabbed my keys and left the house, not sure where I was going, but knowing that I needed to clear my head. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was for sure, I wasn't going to let Emily or anyone control me again. This was my time. And I wasn't going to let anyone take that away from me. The following days blurred into each other. The weight of the decision I had made still hung heavily around my neck like an anchor. It wasn't the kind of weight that dragged you down to rock bottom, but the kind that kept you tethered, unable to move freely. I had made my choice, but I hadn't expected the aftershock. I hadn't expected the loneliness to feel so sharp, so palpable. At first, I buried myself in work. I threw myself into the monotony of tasks, deadlines, and meetings, hoping that the routine would provide some relief from the chaos inside me. But as I sat in my office, staring at a pile of reports that needed my attention, I couldn't concentrate. My mind kept drifting back to Emily. To the look in her eyes when she realized that I knew everything. To the words she had said, her desperate plea for one more chance. I couldn't get her out of my head. It wasn't just her betrayal that haunted me, it was the way she had tried to justify it, the way she had clung to the idea that we could somehow go back to what we had been. There was no going back. I knew that. But it was hard to let go of the idea of us. It was hard to admit that I had spent so many years believing in something that was nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion. But I couldn't deny that there was a part of me that missed her. That missed the version of her that I had loved. The woman who had once made me feel like the center of her world. How had it all gone so wrong? Was it always doomed? Had I been blind to the cracks in our relationship, too focused on the good times to see the warning signs? The questions tormented me as I sat in my office, staring at the report in front of me. I needed a distraction. I needed something to take my mind off of Emily. I needed to feel like I was in control again. I picked up my phone, half expecting to see a message from her. But there was nothing. Just the usual notifications, emails, work updates, social media posts. I clicked on an email from Logan, my lawyer, and opened it, hoping for something that might give me a sense of direction. The email was brief. I've spoken to Emily's lawyer. The divorce is moving forward as planned. I'll be in touch with the details shortly. I read the words again, then again. The divorce was happening. It was real. There was no turning back now. I closed my phone and leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. I couldn't help but wonder what Emily was doing. Was she sitting alone in her apartment, replaying the same moments in her mind? Was she regretting what she had done? Or was she already moving on, trying to rebuild her life without me in it? It didn't matter. I reminded myself of that. I didn't need to know. I didn't want to know. But there was still something inside me that couldn't let go. The truth was, I was scared. Scared of being alone. Scared of the future I had to face without her by my side. I had spent so many years with Emily that it was hard to imagine a life without her in it. And now that she was gone, I felt lost. Empty. Like a part of me had been ripped away. I tried to shake it off. I had made the right choice. I had to believe that. That evening I went for a walk. The city was quieter than usual, the streets bathed in the soft glow of streetlights. The cold air nipped at my skin, but it felt good to be outside, away from the suffocating walls of my office and the emptiness of my house. As I walked, my mind wandered back to Emily again. I couldn't escape it no matter how hard I tried. But this time I allowed myself to feel the anger. To feel the betrayal that had been building inside me since I first found out. She had lied to me. She had destroyed everything we had, everything I had trusted. The person I had once loved had turned into someone I didn't even recognize. I gripped my fists at my sides, the anger pulsing through me. It wasn't fair. I had given her everything, my trust, my love, my life. And she had taken it all and thrown it away like it meant nothing. I stopped walking and leaned against a streetlight, staring at the ground. The anger slowly began to fade, replaced by something else, something colder, more calculated. I wasn't going to let this defeat me. I wasn't going to let Emily's betrayal define me. She had made her choice, and now I had to make mine. It was time to move on. It was time to take control of my life again. The next morning, I woke up with a new sense of purpose. I was done looking back. Done wondering what could have been. The past was gone. And the future? The future was mine to shape. I threw myself into work even more than I had before. I focused on my goals, on the things that I could control. I started making plans, setting new milestones for myself. I didn't need anyone else to define me. I didn't need Emily or anyone else to validate my worth. I was enough on my own. But as the days passed, something began to shift. The emptiness that had consumed me started to recede, replaced by a sense of possibility. A part of me had feared that I would be stuck in this limbo forever, haunted by the past and the weight of my decisions. But I was learning how to let go. I was learning how to move forward. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know what kind of person I would become in the aftermath of all of this. But I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't going to let fear hold me back. I wasn't going to let Emily's mistakes define my future. I had a life to rebuild. And for the first time in a long time, I felt ready. Months had passed, and the raw pain from the fallout of my marriage had dulled into something more manageable. The lingering questions had started to fade, replaced by a quiet acceptance. It wasn't that I had forgotten what happened, it wasn't possible to forget something like that, but I had learned to live with it. To live with myself without needing the approval or the validation of anyone else, especially not Emily. In the beginning, the days had felt like an endless loop of monotony. I had stayed busy, filled my time with work, small distractions, and casual acquaintances, but all of it had felt like a mask. Behind every smile, every handshake, every meeting, I had still been a man broken. A man whose life had been fractured into pieces that didn't quite fit together anymore. But somewhere along the way, something changed. It was subtle, almost imperceptible at first. There was no grand moment of clarity or epiphany. It wasn't one single event that shifted everything. It was just the slow accumulation of time. The quiet process of healing that no one really notices until one day you wake up and realize that the world no longer feels like a weight dragging you under. I was walking down the street one Saturday afternoon when it hit me. The realization that I was fine. More than fine, in fact. I was better. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't haunted by thoughts of Emily. I wasn't holding on to the past, replaying the mistakes, the pain, or the what-ifs. I had stopped seeing myself as the victim, the wrong party. I had stopped seeing my life as a story of betrayal. It had simply become a chapter in a much larger story. And I was still the author. I was still writing my own life. It was a liberating feeling. Of course, there were moments when I still missed her. Moments when I wondered how she was, whether she had found the happiness she had always claimed to want, whether she had learned from the wreckage she had left behind. But those moments were brief. They didn't consume me anymore. I had learned to let go, and it had set me free. I had also started dating again, though not in the desperate way I had in the past. It wasn't about filling a void. It wasn't about proving that I was moving on or finding someone to replace what I had lost. It was simply about rediscovering myself, about connecting with new people, experiencing new things. There was no pressure, no expectation. Just a genuine curiosity about the world and the people in it. That was when I met Sarah. She was different from anyone I had ever known. Not in the way Emily had been, with her charm and her fire. Sarah was steady, grounded. She had a quiet confidence about her, an intelligence that wasn't loud but steady, like the calm before a storm. It was a relief, honestly, to meet someone who didn't expect me to be anything other than who I was. To meet someone who didn't need me to fix her or save her, and who didn't expect me to carry the weight of her world. We started seeing each other casually, but it didn't take long for me to realize that this wasn't just another passing distraction. There was something real here. Something that felt like it could be built on solid ground. And so, for the first time in years, I allowed myself to feel hope. Not the naive kind of hope that comes with new love, but the kind that grows when you've seen the darkest parts of yourself and have survived. The kind that comes when you stop seeking perfection and accept that life is messy, and that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's what makes us human. I remember the day Emily reached out to me. It had been almost a year since we had last spoken, and I had expected it at some point. The past always has a way of resurfacing when you least expect it. Her message was simple: "I've been thinking about you. I hope you're doing okay." I stared at the screen, unsure of what to do. I hadn't spoken to her in so long, and everything about her had become so distant. I wasn't angry anymore, but I wasn't ready to open that door either. Not for her, and not for the ghosts of the past that came with it. I didn't reply, and I didn't feel guilty for not replying. In the end, I realized that Emily and I were part of each other's past, but we weren't meant to be part of each other's future. We had tried, we had loved, but sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes it's just a lesson, one that teaches you who you are and who you're meant to become. The finality of that thought wasn't painful anymore. It was freeing. I had spent so many years tying my identity to her, to us. But now I was free. And with that freedom came clarity. I looked at the life I was building with Sarah slowly but surely, and I felt a sense of peace. I had learned so much. About myself. About love. About the importance of healing. And most importantly, about the power of moving on. I no longer held the past in my hands, trying to reshape it. I no longer carried the burden of what could have been. Instead, I had embraced what was. And it was enough. It was more than enough. And in the quiet moments, when I let myself sit with the truth, I understood deep down that sometimes the end of something isn't an ending at all. It's just a new beginning.